UN Secretary General Special Representative to Iraq to be officially announced and to officially begin working in Iraq. Stefan de Mistura up until now has done a very good job of keeping the issues alive, of keeping the debate going. But we're hopeful that his replacement will keep going at the same level of intensity with the new high-level task force that has been established between the Kurdistan region and the federal government to make sure that Article 140 of Iraq is implemented, Iraq's disputed internal boundary issue is resolved, and we can begin to normalize the relationships between the different regions of the country and the federal government. And your second point about coalitions, I think it's too early to start talking about who's going to make which coalition with which group. No doubt when you have so many different political parties and so many different forces and different ideologies, it makes for very interesting politics. And I think nearer the time we're going to see a more active campaigning by all the various different parties and slates and lists. But again, from the Kurdistan region's perspective, regardless of the various different slates, while they may have opposed each other quite strongly on domestic issues, when you talk of the national issues, when you talk of oil revenue distribution, when you talk of federalism, when you talk of adherence to the constitution, or the need to resolve Iraq's internally disputed boundaries, most of the Kurdish political forces and political blocs have a relatively unified vision on those issues. So I can't see too much room to fiddle around with.
And if you could state your name and affiliation, please.
Peter Semler, Deal Reporter. I'm just following up on the last question, and I was wondering if you can give quite more details regarding what will happen to the concessions that you already granted prior to the election, and what will happen with the concessions that are up for auction in the coming months by the national government. Have you had agreement with the national government on that? And regarding the past concessions, can you guarantee federal recognition for those? Because it's quite an interesting. There's a lot of people looking at that space at the moment, and will be looking in the future.
Well, we feel that the issue of agreements signed by the Kurdistan regional government has certainly been resolved on our part. We feel that they are in line with the nation's constitution. The fact that we are now exporting oil from these previously agreed upon concessions is, I would say, some sort of acceptance by Baghdad that these are in fact legal and constitutional. And we're confident that ultimately the constitution of Iraq will be the ultimate arbiter of disputes between the federal government and the regional governments. As far as Iraq's national oil development goes, we remain adamant that Iraq has to have a dynamic and modern approach when it comes to developing its oil infrastructure. Its vast natural resources need to be utilized. We need to use modern practices. We must move from the nostalgic, nationalized sentiments of the past to look at ways of attracting investment, to boosting production, because we know that boosting production will maximize the returns for the people of Iraq, and that's what's called for in our constitution. We strongly support the production sharing agreement model. We feel that that gives the right kind of incentives to the international oil market to come in, partner with us. And that's the key word here, it's partnership. We want partnerships with the international oil community to help us develop Iraq's natural resources and again, boost production, maximize returns for the people.
Question over here.
Thank you, Qubad, for a very eloquent presentation.
Thank you.
I wondered if you could give us a few more details about cabinet formation. Does the president ask a person to form a government? What are the chances for Baham Saleh? Or is the Quran party, the Change Party, likely to join? Any comments you'd make would be appreciated.
Sure. Well, the Kurdistani list, which won 57% of the seats, the largest bloc in the parliament, will be given the task of presenting its nomination as Prime Minister to the Kurdistan regional government, and then as part of a coalition government, the government will be formed. Opposition groups and parties will be given an opportunity to participate in forming this cabinet, but we've heard that some may choose not to actually take part in the government, but remain a viable opposition in the parliament, and that is their choice, and we support any we support their intentions on that front. Barham Saleh is somebody that is well known to Washington and to people following Iraq and Kurdish affairs. He's the head of the Kurdistani list, so he's the natural candidate to be the next Prime Minister of the Kurdistan region. And we'll see how developments unfold over the coming weeks.
Just one other thing. For those of you in the overflow rooms, if you have any questions, flag down an intern. I see somebody here. Would you like to come forward and ask your question? Flag down an intern and write down. She'll write down the question. We'll get it passed up front. Yes, the man in the pink shirt.
My name is Khani Zulam. I'm with the American Kurdish Information Network. What is your take on Arab ruling circles' view of what happened in Iraqi Kurdistan? Many are autocracies. Many remain intolerant of a free Kurdistan. Do you see them tolerating the journey of democracy that you described here today, or supporting a strong central government in Baghdad?
I mean, it's not really for others to tolerate, accept, approve, endorse what's going on in our part of the world. We're proud of the progress that we've made, and we were welcomed by comments that came out of the Arab League that supported the democratic progress in Kurdistan. They supported the electoral progress in Kurdistan, and actually some officials of the Arab League hailed it as a model elections that they hope that the region can actually emulate. So if we can be a catalyst for change in the region, then I think that is something that we're happy to play that role.
Thank you, Mr. Talabani. I'm Dakhil from Voice of America. Very short question. You're telling us that the U.S. Embassy in Iraq is congratulating the Kurdish people and other consuls or representations or representatives in Kurdistan region. They are congratulating the Kurdish people. Do you think that's enough? I mean, elections in Kurdistan region should be, or the State Department should have a stand for that, or other countries like Arab countries, the European, the Iranian government, no word from them about the Kurdistan elections?
There's been quite widespread support and praise of the Kurdistan region, and some of the statements that we've actually handed out stress that fact, whether it's the European Union, the US government, the United Nations, others that were observing these elections. And again, these elections were about Kurdistan. We will accept praise where we get them, but ultimately we're our harshest critics. And the fact that we set a standard for ourselves, that we reached, that made us as a people proud, that made us as Kurds feel very proud, is all that we need. But any other praise that we can get from anywhere else, we'll gladly accept and not turn it away.
Mohammed Musbah, American University Fellow. Thank you for your presentation. I just have one question. Do you think in the next election in Baghdad next year, the beginning, if we have the same leaders, along with the same leaders in Kurdistan, mainly President Masoud Barzani, then do you think that will improve the political process in Iraq, or will keep it static, or will get it worse? Thank you.
I think that what was important about these elections was not just so much a change of faces, but the process. The process that people felt part of this process, that people turned out in incredibly large numbers to vote for their candidates, to vote for their slates. And that ultimately makes these candidates, makes these officials far more accountable to their people than before. The fact that we now have a viable opposition will make sure that our government is going to be held accountable. That we know now, that in four years' time, when we have our next elections, if we have not improved on the delivery of services, that those people that this time voted for the opposition may vote either for the opposition group in larger numbers, or may vote for another form of opposition group. And I think that has been monitored carefully in Baghdad. I'm speaking to friends and colleagues that are in Baghdad. That Kurdish officials have all been congratulations have been heaped upon them for the process. They're hopeful that the January elections will be as democratic, will be as free, will be as transparent, and will ultimately create a similar result, a government that is accountable to its people, a government that has to work for its people.